What's up, everybody? It's Quinton here from Hunters of Light. And today we've got a fantastic photographer, Tatenda Chidora. He's going to be telling us about his portrait work. But before we do that, I suppose it's quite an epic milestone. This today is our 50th photographer presentation. Yeah. So Tatenda, you happen to fall slap bang into the middle of the 50th one. So that's pretty cool. I have to say that I'm really glad that I got you on, because I remember a while ago I saw your stuff on Instagram, and it was the visions of Phosphorus. And yes. I thought, man, I want to know about what, behind the scenes on this thing, So yes. I reached out then, and eventually we found our way together. Yes. But just as an intro, so Tatenda is a commercial, fine art, fashion photographer, and as the bio says, whose contemporary style is representative of the global movement hailed as New African Photography. So I'm not really one of these salon guys that understands all the terms. I just like your work, and I think that's awesome. Apparently, Tatenda's also run the Comrades more than once. He's traveled extensively for shoots in Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, Congo, etc., etc. And yeah, dude, I'm really keen to see your work and hear the stories. I'm really excited, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me. It's actually an honor. And 50th, yeah, right? 50th presentation. That's super rad. Thank you for having me. I've been following a whole lot. Michael added me to the group. Michael Lewis added me to the group. It's like,
he was the one that said, you need to get this guy on. He was the one that first said, chat to him. So thanks, Michael.
Sure. Yeah, and he's watching, so I'm a little bit, I'm having 20 pounds.
Don't be nervous, it's just you and me. There's no one else, it's just you and me.
Yeah, it's just the two of us. It says 2 participants here, so I'm happy it's just the 2 of us.
And but anyway, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. They say that if you're nervous in front of a crowd, and you've got to do a talk, you've got to imagine them naked, but please, don't imagine me naked. I think that would just be weird.
Oh yeah,
maybe it's too much. Cool, man. So yeah, I'm just really keen, man. I'm glad to have you on board. It's going to be awesome.
Okay. All right. No, that's fantastic. Thank you for having me, and I hope I will be able to unpack my mind. I'll try to be the best as I can with words today, and perfect. Then see how it goes from there onwards. So yeah.
Cool. So yeah, and then I suppose one other thing just to ask beforehand. So I saw that while you've been in lockdown, you've been doing some pictures from, I assume is from where you stay, of your balcony. What have you been doing during lockdown?
So sure, lockdown has been so kind in a way, to be honest with you. I always tell people, because I stay in Pretoria, and a lot of the times I'm always in between Pretoria and Joburg, and sometimes I just come back home to sleep in the evening, leave early in the morning, and then just come back to sleep in the evenings. So I think this is probably the first time I've ever stayed the longest in my apartment, and it's quite refreshing. So do a few things, got to read, got to do a bit of research, catch up as well on a whole lot of things. So and also just to explore, one of my favorite things I always tell people is I love watching light. I think probably because of the people that I've worked with, and whenever we're on shoots, I remember, what's his name, Nick Van Renen always says to me, dude, check out the clouds, look at the clouds, look at the lights. So that's one thing that I really enjoy to do a lot. So I think I've been looking quite a lot, seeing how it's change of season now. So a lot of light trails that I hadn't seen in a while, because I'm never at the house. So I've just been going out. I stay in quite a huge complex, and one of the images at the end, I edited onto the presentation. So I stay in a huge complex, and it's full of people, and it's full of it's quite a concrete jungle in a way, because of the architecture that is around in the place. So I really like, I really love architecture as well. So just exploring and seeing the light patterns, just shadows. It's been so quiet. Everybody's probably indoors here and there. And then sometimes it's super quiet. So you just move around and then just see how beautiful just the light has just been falling. As we get into this winter, the blue skies and the nice warm, just that tiny little part of golden hour, you know, just see how it goes, you know.
Sorry, I'm such a newbie. I've done 50 of these and I'll just leave myself on mute.
What's happening now?
Yeah, and I mean it's so cool to see the change of the scene where, you know, the light falls on in like your lounge wall, that it sort of moves in a different way,
Yes.
and that sort of thing. And it's amazing when you start off as a photographer, you don't always, well, I mean, you don't see things the way that that you do later on in your career. And I remember the first time that I saw winter light versus summer light, and how the winter light, the shadows were blue and cold, whereas the summer light, it was different, and it was like this, what? Amazing. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing, I suppose. You know, you see these things and you see them for years, and then all of a sudden something goes on and you go, I don't believe it. It's amazing, you know. And I suppose that's just the cool thing about photography. The more you do it, the more you learn, the more you understand, and the more you start to see light as a tool and as a texture. You know, I mean, it sounds a bit naff, but I mean, that for me, that's how I see it. You know, you just got so much control and you can play with it.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think just personally as an individual, I think you also see in my images as we go through them, I adore natural light. In a way, I think that's probably one of the tools that I think we've been given to. The universe has granted us this beautiful tool, and I really love natural light. So whenever I see its changes, when it's 12 o'clock, they say you don't shoot, but sometimes there's something beautiful that comes out of it. Early morning, it's just a bit of a peak, and then late afternoon, that, you know, nice long as it transforms into the sunset. So I think there's just that beauty that I've really gotten to see. It's winter now, and, you know, I just explored a little bit more into that.
Fantastic. No, that's awesome. So whenever you're ready, we can start checking out your images, and then
all right,
for the rest of the guys that are watching, remember, ask questions. I'll pass them on. Tatenda is a nice guy. I'm sure he'll answer them. So let's go for it. Over to you.
I hope to do a good job on that one. I'll try to answer everybody's questions.
That'll be awesome.
All right, there we go. So sure. All right. So I'm going to start just from the bottom. I think where I really love portraiture. I think if there ever be anything I dream about and I think about, and I'm always looking forward to photographing as people. I'm always enticed by people, and I love exploring just how beautifully people are and how different we are as human beings. So this is where the journey started. I think I was still in university. I shot this on a good Hasselblad on film, actually. I think that just brought my mind in a way of focusing. I started off in varsity. When we were in university, it was digital photography already. But when I got a hold and a chance to shoot on film, I think it has really shaped the way I approach my portraiture in a way. So I get to focus a little bit more, and I think just slow down. I got to appreciate form in my subjects and as well. So from there, I experimented. This is a friend of mine. He's a guy with albinism. So this was still my early experimenting stages in photography, and this is probably still one of my favorite images. I shot this a while ago. I was still in the university then. I call it Soul Window. So just the contrast in the imagery and just the black and the white. I had a point in life where I was just so obsessed with black and white and everything. Even up to now, I do love black and white. At least now I can shoot in color and do a bit of a good grade in color. But there was a time that I was just so obsessed with black and white. So
have you started seeing in black and white?
I'm looking for those. I'm looking for those chains that I can be able to make me see things in black and white. It was just make it way much simpler. Anyway, sometimes I shoot an image and then it's just like, oh, let me just see how it looks in black and white, and then it just makes everything completely different. So I think moving away a little bit from black and white and always treating everything in black and white has just helped me even grow a bit more in color. So these were the early varsity images that I shot, and still here as well. It was still an experimenting period. I call this series Unordinary. Well, I'm just trying to explore what happens within these people grew up without any of these growth on them. They have ciliates. So the guy on my right, he was electrocuted by a lawnmower, and then his skin couldn't heal. He couldn't heal himself, and then he started developing that. And then this guy on my left, he was in a tree, and then he fell off, and then got punched in, and then from there. So just exploring how life has been and just grown to be ever since they had this growth on them, and how it has affected them through their identity in a way. So these were still my early work, and I still believe that this is still a body of work that is still in progress in a way. And then coming to your favorite story, in a way, visions of Phosphorus. So I think this was in 2018, if not mistaken, 2018, 2017. Also the beginning of winter in a way. I got approached. That's when I just got signed up to Lamppost and Win the Rise Board. So we had to do a collaboration between me and another gentleman, Neo Serati. He's a fashion designer and stylist. So we went on to work on this body of work, and then he grew up in Phosphorus, and then we decided that we're going to tell a different fashion story, a narrative of what could be found normal and what's not normal in our culture. I mean, as a black individual, if I was to walk like this in my community, people would think maybe I've just lost my mind a little bit. So just that juxtapositioning of ideas, and just trying to uncover layers of style, and in a conformed environment where people believe things are supposed to be only in a certain way. So it was a day of just exploring and just walking. We literally shot the whole entire day, and from morning until late in the evening. This was one of the last shots that we had during that day. So just for me, I think as a young man, I grew up in Zimbabwe. And moving to South Africa was just a beautiful transition for me, because I got exposed to a whole lot more things, but I saw common trends in terms of colors and textures and and how people just live. And so this is just one thing, that I feel like I'm responsible for storytelling in a way in my community, and storytelling just as an African being. So this was some of the shots from the vision of Phosphorus. This is how it is every day. People pile up stuff, but just trying to create a beauty and a contrast against whatever the environment is like, in a way. And this young man, his top outfit is all wrapped up in in gaffer tape, orange gaffer tape. So during that day, it was just always, people step back and then they look at you and then they start watching and then they ask you, what are you guys doing? What is this for? And all of that stuff. So it just caused a lot of inquisition to the people, and just it's obscure in a way. It's not the normal way of just approaching it, I would say. So I think this is where my journey started, and experimenting a lot more in color, loving color, and just trying to see the contrast and placing things against what it was. This is still probably one of my favorite images. Back in the day, we broke the internet a little bit with it, in a way. So just I remember this one lady. This was just a court where I think this was a hostel where people stayed. And then when they saw this guy wearing these pants, it just caused so much havoc, because he's such a buff guy. And then he's wearing such back in the 70s, I wasn't there, but these were like Bellbottoms, and which was what was probably fashion in that day and age. So he was wearing these Bellbottoms, and then people are just like, what's going on? And so for me, it's always I'm always looking out to explore form, color, masculinity. What's the right word? The just celebrating black skin, people of color in a different way, and also just trying to walk away from what is the norm in photographing people, especially in our culture and how things are always perceived.
What strikes me about these ones is there's like an attitude that's in the clothes, the way that they're sort of standing or sitting and looking. There's just this attitude which I love. I think it's just so cool. Just like it just glows out of each one of them. It's fantastic.
Amazing, thank you. I remember when we were going through this, Neo Serati said to me that we want to have what's the right word? It's like, I've always imagined that the Power Rangers would come to Phosphorus, and and he always used to say that I always, whenever, because you always have these. If you ever go to a township, people leave stuff everywhere. So like he says that when I look at these old cars, I think maybe I'll just be like the pink Power Ranger, and then I'll come and lift these things up and then make a whoop-oo, that sci-fi thing. So it was probably also a line and the streak of inspiration where we just wanted to, that fantasy in mind, and that just bringing a bit of color to a worn out world in a way. And then I call this image Chicken Run. You would never find a guy topless and chasing chickens, but the chickens everywhere. Probably the most organic chickens away from everything. They eat anything uncontrollably. So just the colors in this, and just the warmness was towards the end of the day in it, and then just breaking the cycle of just the normal in it. And this was probably the last image that we shot in the day. So this is visions of Phosphorus. And so now
those other two portraits, like the ones that I've got on the promo, were those also shot as part of that, or was that something else?
That's something else.
Okay.
That's something else. I think from there onwards, I've just revolved to experimenting with my portraiture, and I'm going to talk about them. It's still a work in progress.
Cool.
I hope to get a lot more out of it in the long run, but I've got them more at the bottom.
Okay.
There. So this was probably the end of Visions of Phosphorus. So then from there onwards, I think just around the way, I just started exploring into contemporary fine art. Most of my personal work I get to exhibit. So I had my first solo exhibition last year, and also part of different group exhibitions here and there. So this was part of the exploration, experimentation in the process. And then it just brings me back to even to this body of work. I get to work with this guy is actually my friend. We've been friends for a while, actually in university. So I got to just, when I first approached to photograph him, he completely denied, because of how he wasn't just happy being in front of camera, and also stigmatization and all of that. And then from there onwards, we grew a relationship together. And then from there onwards, we started working together. So we did this body of work, starting here, and then this one here. And, you know, for me, it was, well, one thing I always say is that I'm always inspired by things that I grew up with. And I'm sure I'll probably talk about it with the last images at the bottom, the ones that you use for the promo. But I'm inspired by things that I grew up playing around with, things that I was surrounded by, and, you know, just experimenting in it. And, you know, and also just like I've been saying throughout, just to break the norm. In my culture, if a man was to be seen holding flowers like this, they'll probably ask, what went wrong? You know, in a way, what's the order of the day? You know, and then, you know, but also at the same time, you can't lose anything because you're just holding a bunch of flowers. So it was just exploring vulnerability in a way, and just trying to see what would come out of it, and just the beauty in it. I call this series Captured, how things in our mind can get through to us. It's Captured 1 and Captured 2. So, and just bringing out the contrast and conversation. You know, some of the things that get me all inspired is just like politics, and, you know, what people say about this and what is that, and people ask questions. I'm left, right, and center, you know, and this is, I call this Captured 2, where you are supposed to be bringing out stuff to people, and people are always bringing out, you know, trying to get out things out of you because of whatever case you are in a way. So yeah, and then I'll come back to some fashion work that I've done along the way. I'm just gonna probably just fly through some of these. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I want to know what the reason was for not getting your horizon straight.
I'm
just kidding.
You know, actually, funny enough, you know, they're always they are rules. They are rules in photography, and, you know, and sometimes, most times, at most, it's actually important for you to follow the rules and everything. But I think I got in a space where I kind of hit the wall, because my mind was, whenever I had to take an image and try process through something, even something that is not commercial. I mean, when you do commercial work, you're going to have to stick to the brief. You're going to have to stick to what the art director wants and creative director needs. So when you now work on personal work, or the things that you really love, and try to translate it in the way that you think is the right way you want to translate it, I got to a place where I felt like I was being held back because of so many rules. And just coming fresh out of university, then everything, whenever I would shoot something, and I feel like it feels it feels well and it feels beautiful, I would just have a battle within myself to say, no, but this doesn't work. It's not the right way. It's not AAB. So I kind of hit sort of like a creative flow, because I was now focusing a lot more on do's and don'ts. And, you know, I think I always believe that with imagery, there is always a space where one needs to create a feel, and one needs to create sort of like conversation, and it just needs you to break the rules just a little bit, and you never know what's gonna come out of it. So probably hence the bent horizon, because he's also skewing in that way.
I think that's
in
the thing, you know, I suppose the majority of my clients are more commercial, and
yes.
and my advertising background has also led me into this box of it has to be a certain way. And I think that's what I really admire about, you know, your work and some of the other guys that we've had on, you know, on the Hunters of Light. And there's
Yes.
this sort of like freedom and that for me is just excitement. And I'm for some reason I'm wary of it. So I don't, you know, go down that road as much. I mean, what I'm finding is just this, like, I don't know if the word's irreverent, but it's just, you know, like I'm just there and I'm taking these pictures and they're getting the message that I have across, and I respect that,
Yes.
man. It's so awesome.
Oh, thank you. So I think there's always you know, I think also as a photographer in developing style and a niche in a way, I think we ought to continue in a way that you know, you're just gonna bring out that aesthetic that you believe in and what you're seeing and hoping things will be. So this is a campaign that I did sometime, I think it was in 2018. Worked with a fashion designer as well with that, and so and also just, you know, just that feel of how I would just see the images at that time in a way. And then from there, then I just started off, like I said earlier on, just exploring everyday life with the things that inspire me each and every day, stuff that I bump into, and you know, the things that are probably my everyday tools. I had an afro just before lockdown, and then lockdown happened, and then I shaved everything. I didn't see the crown of my head in like 7 years or 8 years or so. So, you know, and you know, just that whole transition. So I think one thing also that you would notice in my imagery is that my skin tones are always a little bit darker than normal in a way. People have always asked me, how come it looks way darker? Is this really how the person looks? And sometimes it's exactly how the person, just how the person looks. So just that exploring and just noticing things in the everyday life. This was a body of work that I worked on. It was part of a campaign in it. So just exploring. And I also get to shoot a lot of male figures. I feel like it's much easier for me in a way because I don't have to worry a lot about makeup. And and I think it's also a form that I'm a male, I'm a male, so it's a form that I would love to explore, and just to see the beauty far beyond just trying to bring out different elements and different backgrounds in my imagery. This was actually shot on film. I shot this on a roll of film in a way. So.
Tatenda, I've just got a question from Chris Vessels. Where do you draw your inspiration from? You know, other photographers, and have you trained under any pros? I know that you've assisted Michael and Vanessa, but maybe just you know, let us know where you get your inspiration from, and you know, who you've assisted, and etc., or trained under.
Okay, cool. So I would basically say that my inspiration comes from my everyday life. I literally, probably from growing up, and also just my everyday life. I'm in a big community full of people from different parts of Africa. So I think would easily say that I'm a pro-African person. I believe in Africanism, if there's something like that. So I just really love how textures and life just revolves around us being African people. So I think that's where I really draw my inspiration from. I've traveled quite a bit up further into African countries. There's still a lot more to go through. So I really get inspiration from traveling, seeing different textures, seeing different places, exploring culture. And then after, actually during university, the first photographers I ever assisted was Michael Lewis and Vanessa Lewis. They were literally bring me into the world of photography from a non-education environment. So they were the first people. I got to work with them until they left. And then I've assisted quite a lot of people. I'm always eager to learn in a way, but I work a lot with Nick van Reenen. We do a lot of advertising together, a lot of cars. It makes me see cars in a different way. And then just from a fashion perspective, Travis Owen, Kristen Lee Moorman, I've worked with Ross Garrett, and and I think these are probably the most prominent people that bring direction into my photography. And then just looking at other people's work, probably other photographers that really inspire me. We're looking at Vivian Sassan. I love, there's a gentleman by the name of Leonard Pongo. He's from the DRC. And there's quite a handful. I grew up looking at, I think during my journey in photography, I had a good eye on Richard Avedon. And I love Annie Lubavitz also. And then probably in this day and age, in that sphere, we're looking at a lady by the name Cass Bird. Also looking at, I love this lady. She's from London. Her name is Nadine. I can't pronounce the surname. Ijewere. She's half Jamaican and half Jamaican, half Nigerian. So yeah. All right. Cool. 30 minutes. I hope I answered your question, Chris.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
So yeah. So I think just generally in life, and I think seeing my everyday. I live in quite a busy community. So whenever I walk through my streets, and I've always believed that in this section where I stay, I think the whole of Africa stays in this area where I stay. So whenever I'm walking down the street, I'm always looking at people, and I'm always meeting different people, and I'm always seeing different forms and different figures in a way. So yeah, we can carry on to it. And I love this picture. It's called Scopper's Heights. I don't know. There's this. So that colored popcorn at the bottom. It's called Scopper's, and it's just been exploring just the everyday things that we see in a way. And one of my favorite quotes, Skotlela, is a dish. I grew up bathing in this dish every day. And my mom always used to tell me, go get the dish. So it's this big thing. It's quite humongous. So my mom always used to tell me, go get the dish. And then, you just came back from playing, and you're all white from just playing in the sand and everything. So once you hear, go get the dish, there ain't no hot water in it. It's just going to be cold water. So I never used to know how to carry the dish, because I was probably the same height with the dish in a way. So if I had to drag it on the floor, then she'll be shouting, you can't be dragging that thing on the floor. It's making noise, and it's starting off to chip off. So carry the thing, because that was also my punishment, because you tell me don't come back dirty.
Yeah, exactly.
Dirty. So this is one thing that I grew up with all the time in a way. So probably in this day and age, if I was to be asked to carry it, I'll probably just put it on my bike. It'll be way much easier and stuff. So that's it. And so part of the imagery. I've oftenly been criticized that this image is awfully dark and underexposed in a way, but it's just. If it was brighter, I think I would never feel the feel that it has in a way. Just that richness, and then just that texture that just comes out of it. Perhaps I think that's what's more important for me. I like in a way, and also even the same. This one image as well. We went out to go shoot, and then all of a sudden it wanted to rain, and then just after clicks with this image, and then it all started off raining. So I think there's been a very much of a journey, and very much of a of a huge space from my black and whites to the way I also perceive color. In a way, I think there's one common trend is just that there's just that beautiful grunge. In a way, everything is quite rich. If I'm to edit a black and white, it's always quite rich in a way. So I think you could easily put them next to each other, black and white or color, but they would have an easy flow through them, and because of just that. The richness in color, in a way.
Yeah, there's two things that come out of that for me. The one is I absolutely love what is it? I've forgotten the word. Something grunge. What is it?
Contrast in the grunge.
No. You said something. You called it something. I can't even remember what it was, and I was just going to say it. Beautiful grunge or something like that. But I mean, for me, what you're saying is absolutely true. This one almost looks like a hand-colored black and white image. So you've got the same feel, but the one's just, got like a bit of, hand coloring or something. So yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's one of my favorite images, this and the peg one, but we're not there yet. So carry on.
All right. Okay, cool. And then, so I was just going to go. So probably, like I was just saying now, probably, I always go probably a little bit overboard. Black close to really black, and then I just always brighten up my highlights a little bit more, just that texture. In a way, I like just that how the sand on the ground kind of forms a whole pattern, as if there's a patch just on his back as well. So I think there's just a journey. It's one of the artists that I work with a lot. Just that wide. I shoot a lot on wide angle. Just for that lovely, I find distortion quite beautiful in a way. I think distortion and quite grungy. That's always my feel at most when it comes to my portraiture. And then we come to these ones here. So I think this is still a body of work, because now I've got a few more elements that I just wanna add up. Just wanna add to the whole collection, and see how they would easily sit next to it. So I call these metamorphoses. This is a guy wrapped up in foil paper. Funny enough, this foil paper. So I ran the Comrades Marathon last year. It's probably like my 4th time last year, and then probably like 87 kilometers, 3 more kilometers to go to the final end. And then I decided I wasn't gonna finish. Time was finished and all of that stuff. So this guy came, and then he gave me this blanket because I was feeling cold. And I was just like, probably I'll just take it home. And then I folded it nicely. And then I was like, I'll find something to use it for later on. And then I think my pain was put in that thing. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna use this as a prop to it. So this is I think this is like just a new body of work that I'll be working on. I call it metamorphosis. Sometimes we just need to come out of things that we are muffled around with, and just bring out just the beauty inside of us. So there's this one here. Got any questions or?
So there was a question from John Lincourt. Can you talk a little bit about your interaction between you and the models? Do you tell the models what you want, or do you give them the latitude to sort of bring their vision to it as well?
So I think most of the times, if it's a probably like a fashion editorial, it's kind of a collective. So me, the stylist, and then the model. Most probably with the model, it's what they can bring best to the table is maybe movement, and how they will translate the garment, and how they would just move in the atmosphere. I think that will always be like an element that, as a photographer, you can control. You can tell them, probably this way and that way. But I think when I create my most probably some of my portraiture, it's always, I think it's always directed in a way. I always tell them, so I want you to stand for me in this way, and is how I'd probably see it from my perspective. And then if they have a bit of input, how about I do this? Then it's always welcome. You can plan things from A to Z, but when you get on set, it's always completely different. So there's always that surprise element that comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of all shoots, in fact, are incredibly collaborative. You have if it's a commercial shoot, you've got the art director, creative director, executive creative director, producer, etc., etc. But everyone is got a bit of input and massages it into where it is. I mean, it starts with the layout,
yes,
and it pretty much moves in that sort of direction. But once you've got what you're looking for, and you've got that banker, then you go and explore and enjoy, and just have some fun. And sometimes I've seen it where you come away with something that was nowhere near where you were going with it, but it's better. So you just got to kind of try and get what you think you started with, and then just say, right, let's have fun now.
That's very true, and there's always that nerve to say, okay, how is it going to come out, and how is it going to be perceived in a way? When you look at the back of cameras, like, oh, okay, when the light and the model and the garment is like, oh, it actually works, and it looks it's completely different. So yeah, so this was the first to all the series, and then comes this one.
Love
the
this.
one with the pigs. I actually wanted to use Coke bottles, Coca-Cola bottles and everything. So I'm just like, again, then I'm always exploring in my mind to say what could be my next prop, especially if I'm going to do something by myself, without anyone else involved in it. So these are you're probably the first person that say, oh, these are actually pigs. When I told
I'm sorry if I ruined the illusion.
No.
It's supposed to be one of the gladiators from 300, or Spartacus, and here I'm saying, yeah, no, I like the pigs. Sorry.
My one friend always says to me, I'm obsessed. He always says to me that I'm obsessed with laundry. I just can't do a dirty laundry basket. So it's what are you doing? I'm doing some laundry. So yeah, you find some pigs in my house, a lot of pigs in my house. In a way, so I made the craft by myself, and then shot it. It was actually for an exhibition. Blue is a warmest color. So, and then I just thought to myself. So I'm always constantly thinking, and like I said to you earlier on, the everyday things that I can find, and things that I can have access to. Can I put it together? If I have a chance, can I put it together and see how it will work? And then probably just like, oh, let me try pigs. If I put them all together, they probably would look. That's just how it was, and then I just spray painted them blue, in a way. So that's that one, and then this is probably the latest one.
I love this one too. So cool. I'm not going to say what it is because that will ruin it for a lot of people. But no, this is genius.
I think probably she just this is supposed to be 3 a.m. in the morning. I was thinking, I was like, let me just try, see, and I've got a packet, and then, it's like brass scorers, and I had to put them all together, cable tie, they look amazing, and then I built it from there, and then it didn't look so well, and then I added up a little bit more. So, like I say, it's like, it's always in a flash moment, and even the other things, one day when you sit down and you look at everything, once I'm finished with the whole series, you realize it's probably the everyday things that you play with, and the everyday things. I don't play with scorers. I watch the scorers, which is with scorers. So in a way, it just pulled me into it. It's like, but it's got beautiful form and beautiful shape. So it's just that juxtapositioning of elements, and just trying to see how you could bring it. It's everyday things. It's everyday African things. It's everyday things that we encounter in a way.
Yeah.
So I think this is it on my side, and just the last bit. People always ask me, where do I find inspiration? This is one of the blocks of it's a block of flats in the complex that I stay in, and every night, one of my friends was saying to me, the evening has got an illusion. It can bring out just some utter beauty in places where you'd never think. So, you know, just looking through and having that inquisition of color, and, you know, exploring just to see what is it, and where are we, and you know, the kind of culture. And this will be one image that just presents what happens in my mind, you know, the things that I see every day, and what I encounter in a way, and just the beauty of life surrounding. And that's where I draw inspiration from. I draw inspiration from being African. I draw inspiration from being around people. I draw inspiration for the, you know, just the beautiful things that are not, you know, they are not fixed. You know, they just, it's just as how they are in a way. So yeah, and yep, and that's it. We leave it from Phosphorus.
Are you back? Tatenda.
Hey.
Hey. I was just on this monologue now, telling you how awesome you are, etc. Now I'm gonna have to do it again.
No, please do so. I was just thinking, whoa, what happened now?
So I'll take a step back. So those you know, the where it becomes like an everyday hero, where you know, kids who don't have Superman outfits and whatever, they make their own.
They make their own.
And you know, so they can all run around the garden. They don't care that they've got, you know, those rubber gloves on, and you know, dad's tie, which they've cut holes in, and stuff like that. And the one awesome thing that I look at and I see out of those two, with the pigs and the scourers, is it's almost like a take on an African mask, but it's a more sort of modern take on it. And I don't know what it is about it, but it's absolutely fabulous. And I need a quote, because those two, I think I need to have as prints in my studio and in my house. I absolutely love them. They're awesome. But I also wanted to say that I'm so glad that you were the 50th photographer. I had a whole lot of fun chatting to you. I think it was absolutely amazing, amazing work. Absolutely loved it. It's the one thing that all of these presentations have done. It's just given me so much inspiration and motivation, and you know, just this desire to go out and take pictures. I think you said at some stage, you know, like everyday things that you find inspiring, and that's. I need to carry around a camera with me and get out of the office and the studio and go and take pictures of everyday things. You know, I need to do more of that. I think we've lost Tatenda again, but it's fine. It's recorded. It's there. Tatenda, you're amazing. Thank you very much. Cheers, everyone.